I would like to ask you a question. As a historian, I'm a pretty pessimist as well, and looking backwards is always something difficult regarding human nature. And I would like to ask you how important and how useful is to defend free speech nowadays when it seems that we don't have much censorship but more a death debate. Because in the social media, people are much often not hear each other. So the debate is pretty a death debate. And we did this social media bubbles, ideological bubbles, that no one talks to no one, or you talk only with your own partisans. So how useful, as a pretty pessimist historian, how useful and how important is to defend free speech in this era of death debate, much worse than censorship?
This is a great question, and one that I've been thinking a lot about. The new book, which Axel mentioned, The Square and the Tower, includes an extended reflection on the phenomenon of polarization that you've just alluded to. You're probably aware of this from your own experience, because I know a lot of people here are on Facebook. But the way in which social media work is, as you've just said, to steer people, to direct people into echo chambers, into capsules or bubbles, where they essentially read only things that the algorithm thinks they will like. That's how it works. Because Facebook's incentivized to get you to stick to content, to engage with content, it wants to steer you towards things it thinks you will like. And the effect, which I think was unintended, though it was predictable, has been to create clusters that are roughly ideological. In the United States, you see a liberal cluster and you see a conservative cluster. It's even more obvious on Twitter. There's a great study I read this year which shows that if you want to get retweeted, I don't know how many people here actually use Twitter, just out of interest? Okay. So a substantial proportion of you. So if you're interested in retweets, which some people care about, then people only retweet stuff they agree with, broadly speaking. There's very little retweeting of things that you disagree with. And you are 20 to 30% more likely to be retweeted if you use emotive language. Which is why whenever people are being negative about me online, they use a lot of swear words. For some reason, the left does this much more than the right. So you know it's the left wing on Twitter where you're called an effing fascist. People instinctively know that calling me an effing fascist is more likely to get retweeted than just a fascist. So I think you've identified one of the central problems of the modern public sphere, that it is breaking down into two public spheres that don't communicate with each other. And some of the diagrams, when you graph the networks, are really terrifying. This was predictable because social networks tend to work that way, even small ones without technology. We know from many social studies there tends to be some kind of polarization in any group of human beings, along ideological or racial or some other fault line. So when those people who created Facebook and Twitter say today, "Oh, we're so shocked. We thought we were creating a global community, but this is terrible. We're so surprised." My response is, well, duh. I mean, you're surprised that human beings could use Facebook for bad purposes? I mean, of course, if you drop out of Harvard without taking any history courses, that's the kind of thing you're liable to think. But those of us who study history know that human beings, if you connect them all together, don't just share cute cat videos. That is not the way the human being works. So, yeah, you're dead right. There's a problem. And I think we're not going to fix it if we leave things as they are. The current setup in which 45% of Americans get their news from the Facebook news feed, which is entirely without any liabilities of the sort that publishers have to contend with, that is a guaranteed recipe for continued polarization of public life and a kind of breakdown in communication between left and right. We need to change that. Of course, it's difficult to do. I'll give you an example of why it's difficult. There's a TV personality, presenter, named Van Jones on CNN, who's a Democrat. He's African American. If you ever see CNN in the US, you'll very likely see Van talking about the news. He used to do a TV show with Newt Gingrich, and they attempted in this show to show that the left and the right could have a conversation. And the show had 3 segments. And for 3 out of the 4 segments, they would disagree. They would go at one another, hammer and tongs. If it was gun control, if it was abortion, they would just go at one another. But in the 4th of the segments, in the last segment, they would find an issue they agreed on. Sounds great, doesn't it? Except for one thing. Here are the ratings. Segment 1, segment 2, segment 3, segment 4. People stopped watching the minute those guys started to agree. So we have an appetite for this kind of polarized debate. And unfortunately, social media cater to that appetite.